a slave to his audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hassan being a slave to his audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is this kind of like a big sister moment, like tough love, or are you guys actually beefing?
No, we're actually beefing. I think he treats his own uncle like shit, and it me off. I love Cenk, and he's such a kind-hearted, good person who's given Haas opportunities, which led to his career being what it is today.
Right.
The way that he trashes his own uncle is like not being pure enough. Like, it was pretty infuriating to me. And I think he does do it because he is afraid of his audience. His audience consists of that faction of the left that I was talking about, where you have to be 100% pure. If you don't fully accept birthing person terminology, then you must be anti-trans. Like,
to be clear, Anna has no idea what Hassan's audience is like. That is a super wokey signaling issue that Hassan's audience does not give a f about. You guys putting true in chat are totally wrong. Hassan's messaging is way more on that Marxist-Leninist today. Anna's just conflating Hassan with every other progressive wokey that's bullied her online. So a lot of people, I guess, nobody just understands how any of these political groups work. Like, Hassan is not part of the group ever that's virtue signaling of the birthing person thing. She's just confusing Hassan with every other far left wokey.
That's the group we're talking. By the way, sometimes Haas slips.
Sure.
And
he's streaming all the time. You're going to slip.
Yeah, but what I mean by slips is he'll slip about like, oh, these leftist purity chirpers, right? And
so
it's
he'll
like,
say something that you agree with.
100%. Yeah. So it's.
Oh my God. I don't understand all these people. Or maybe is this all a game? I can't tell if it's like this is showmanship. He's not slipping. She thinks he's slipping, but that's not him slipping. He just doesn't care about the social issues. He cares about the class stuff.
Like, whatever. I don't know. I have.
To be fair, I don't expect actually any of these people to spend as much time watching this as I do. We have the privilege of, like, since we exist in this space, we can consume a ton of their content. So
less respect for people who are caught in this like doom loop of audience capture.
Right.
You like either you tell the truth or you don't. You either share what you actually think or you don't.
Yeah.
And the idea of throwing family under the bus to appease that mob, like, I don't know. I have this thing with loyalty, which is either healthy or unhealthy. I don't know. I don't care, but it is what it is. And especially when it comes to family, especially when it comes to someone who has helped me in some way, either in building my career or helped me in some other way, I'm not going to turn my back on them the second it becomes uncomfortable.
A comedian does a voice, another piles on, the audience laughs, and a streamer, watching from his corner of the digital world, laughs too. He does not analyze, he does not parse, he does not deliver the familiar barrage of commentary. He simply laughs. And yet within that laugh, within the refusal to say more, there lies an opening, a space where meaning spills beyond the surface. In this case, it is Destiny, watching Stavros Halkias and Adam Friedland on their now-defunct podcast, indulging in the ritual of impression. They choose Tucker Carlson, a man whose very cadence invites parody, whose presence in American life is already a kind of caricature, a figure both terrifying and absurd. The comedians push his mannerisms into farce, extend his questioning tone into nonsense, fracture his persona until it becomes a playground for improvisation. And Destiny, the political gladiator, the debater, the analyst, simply laughs. To laugh without speaking is not to say nothing. Laughter itself is a form of speech, a gesture that signals alignment, recognition, complicity. It tells us that the absurd has landed, that the performance has succeeded in collapsing the distance between speaker and listener. For Destiny, whose brand has long been tied to sharp analysis, to immediate response, the choice to laugh without commentary is striking. It suggests surrender, an acknowledgement that what is unfolding cannot be dissected, that it resists rational explanation. Comedy often works this way. It bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the body. In laughter, Destiny admits that there are domains of culture that exceed debate, moments when the most honest response is simply to be carried by the current of absurdity. And yet, his silence also creates a mirror. For the audience accustomed to his ceaseless articulation, the absence of commentary becomes commentary in itself. They wait for him to dissect the parody, to contextualize it within media ecosystems, to map its relation to politics. Instead, they are left with the sound of his laughter, a void where analysis might have been. The void itself becomes a statement about the limits of discourse. What Stavros and Adam are doing in their performance is not just mimicry. Impression is a ritual of power. To imitate someone like Tucker Carlson is to reduce the weight of his authority, to unmask the scaffolding of his persona. The voice, the cadence, the expressions, all of these are tools Carlson uses to project control, to frame narratives, to persuade. When comedians exaggerate these tools, they expose the machinery. In parody, Tucker becomes a hollow vessel, a figure emptied of seriousness. His authority crumbles under the weight of silliness. The performance is a kind of cultural exorcism. It drives out the specter of menace through laughter. And yet it also affirms how deeply his mannerisms have embedded themselves into public consciousness. The fact that a bare-bones imitation can be instantly recognizable testifies to his ubiquity. Destiny's laughter, then, is not neutral. It signals recognition of that cultural embeddedness. He laughs not just at the parody, but at the fact that such parody is possible, that Carlson's peculiar cadence has become a shared language ripe for mockery. The setting matters. Stavros and Adam belong to a lineage of comedy that thrives on irreverence, chaos, the refusal of decorum. Their podcast, Come Town, now defunct, cultivated a cult following by leaning into the grotesque, by stretching the boundaries of taste, by turning even political figures into fodder for juvenile absurdity. To watch Destiny engage with this space is to see a crossing of worlds. On one side, the structured adversarial realm of debate, where arguments are scored like points in a game. On the other, the anarchic world of comedy, where meaning dissolves into nonsense, where the joke is the point, where structure collapses into chaos. When these worlds meet, the outcome is instructive. The debater laughs, stripped of his usual weapons, left only with the raw reaction of amusement. He cannot out-argue nonsense, cannot dismantle parody with logic. The comedians, by reducing Tucker to absurdity, also reduce the commentator to laughter. Parodying Tucker Carlson is not merely an act of comedy, it is an act of politics. Carlson represents a style of discourse that thrives on manufactured outrage, on questions asked in bad faith, on the constant suggestion of menace lurking behind the ordinary. To parody him is to reveal the thinness of this style, to push it into self-caricature. What Stavros and Adam perform is the transformation of menace into absurdity. They strip Carlson of his ability to intimidate, reducing him to a vessel of silliness. Their parody says, "Here is a man who presents himself as the guardian of seriousness, yet his performance is fragile enough to collapse under a few exaggerated tics." Destiny's laughter in this context becomes political too. Is laughter at the crumbling of Carlson's authority, at the spectacle of his persona laid bare as performance. Even without words, the laugh aligns with the parody's critique. We live in an era where seriousness itself has become a commodity. Political figures perform seriousness to command attention, to cultivate legitimacy. Media figures adopt serious tones to project authority. But comedy punctures seriousness, revealing its artificiality. When Destiny laughs without commentary, he acknowledges this collapse. He recognizes that seriousness is not the only currency of political life. Sometimes the most incisive critique is not a counterargument, but a laugh. Sometimes the spectacle of parody does more to destabilize power than any carefully reasoned debate. There is power in what Destiny does not say. Silence here is a refusal, a recognition that not everything requires words. In the silence, the audience must confront their own reactions, must grapple with the absurdity without guidance. For a figure whose identity is built on analysis, the silence is jarring. But it also expands the possibilities of engagement. It suggests that sometimes the most authentic response to culture is not to interpret, but to experience. Not to explain, but to share in the collective laughter. This moment, small as it is, belongs to a larger theater. Online culture thrives on crossovers, on the collision of different genres. Debate meets comedy, politics meets parody, seriousness meets silliness. These collisions reveal the porous boundaries of our digital lives. Destiny watching Stavros and Adam parody Tucker Carlson is one such collision. It is a reminder that the internet is not neatly divided into spheres of politics and entertainment. Instead, it is a tangle where debate, parody, performance, and commentary bleed into one another. And in that tangle, laughter becomes a bridge. When the laughter fades, what remains is the recognition that comedy has its own kind of power. It does not dismantle arguments, but it dismantles authority. It does not persuade through logic, but through ridicule. It reveals that even the most intimidating personas are vulnerable to silliness.